weekend or maybe a day or so ago. I don't exactly remember when. I got a message from someone on Discord from the Easypanel community asking me if I can help them get the HarakaMail application. There's a Haraka SMTP email server up and running inside of Easypanel. And so obviously the question is, like, if you've seen my other Easypanel videos, you know that it's literally just a container Docker swarm management tool. If you can run an application in Docker, chances are pretty high that you can get it running inside of Easypanel without an issue. There are some exceptions to that rule. Certain applications require a lower level access to the network stack than what Easypanel will allow you to have. And if you don't need that, then you're good. But if you do want that, then there's not much that you can do. So for example, I think it's called like shared networking or something like that. One of the available containers that you can run in Easypanel is the ad blocker or something like that. You can run Pi-hole and whatever. But from the network stack perspective, any kind of request that comes in over port 53 for DNS or whatever port you're going to be using for secure DNS, the client IP is not going to be the IP address of the device making the request. It's going to be the IP address of the container or something like that. And so it may look a little confusing, it may be off, you may not get accurate reporting. DNS will still work great, and of course you can still securely block and protect and whatnot. But because the networking stack is essentially proxied, you don't have a way, it doesn't have access to see the actual network packet because it's not shared, and you can't do shared inside of Easypanel. So there are ways around it using Docker as well, like directly, that you can do a shared network. I don't actually know what it's called, but there's a way where the container itself will share the network adapter and the network stack of the host, as opposed to being an isolated segmented network adapter. And so therefore it's less about proxying, and it really just has access directly to the host adapter at that point. In any case, I don't think the SMTP server has that kind of limitation. And of course the answer is, like, if we can run it in Docker, we can at least try an Easypanel. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to make it work, and we're going to troubleshoot real time together and see if we can get it up and running. So let's go ahead and share my screen. We will go directly to the page where we've got the mail server information pulled up, and we can see it can run. It's a npm package that we can just install globally and run. There's a get started button, and we also have open on GitHub. So that's usually where I start off, open on GitHub, right? Because Easypanel has the ability to run GitHub directly. It can also run Docker containers and other kinds of containers. In this case, I'm looking for a Docker file, which is clearly here. So we should be able to just reference that Docker file, and away we go. It looks like the last time it was updated was 3 years ago. So that's not great. We don't know what we're going to run into. 3 years is a long time in the technology world. But let's at least go ahead and try it and see what happens. We can see, in order to run this on Easypanel, we're going to need these two things. It's going to be the name of the repository, and then the name of the GitHub profile, and then the name of the repository that we're going to be using, and then of course the branch, which is master. So let's go to Easypanel, and we'll go down to like test 4, and let's just make a new one. This is going to be an app, and we'll just call this Haraka. I can't use capitals, so we'll call it HarakaMail, all lowercase. And we're going to stop it because it's going to try to start running without anything, so we can upload code and whatnot. See, it's starting on port 80. We just killed it, so it's not running anymore. Running is 0 out of 0. And let's go down here. We've got GitHub selected. The owner, which is going to be the profile, is going to be Haraka, and Haraka repository, and master is the branch. And we want to build in the root, and we're just going to save that at this point. Okay, so now that we've done that, the question is, what else we need to do? Let's go to deployments and try to deploy it and see what happens. We can see it's pulling the latest, and it almost immediately fails. 3 seconds in, it fails. So let's go in here and take a look at what's going on. And we can see that the very first thing that we get back is an error that Docker IO Fusion base image master is not found. And if we come here and let's take a look at this. Let's go take a look at the actual Docker file and see what. So if we're going in here and we take a look at the Docker file, we can see that it's going to pull from Fusion somewhere here almost immediately Fusion base master. And we've got like an image to it. So, I mean, a link to that page. So let's go ahead and open that up and see what we get. Well, okay, this is pretty self-explanatory. Your Docker image might be broken without you knowing it. Yeah, well, I mean, it is broken. We do know it. Let's keep reading. Okay, I actually don't think that this is related to why ours isn't working. I think it's just a ad that says why we should be using this Docker image as opposed to just pretending Docker works with Linux without a problem. There are certain limitations, and reading through this, certain functions in Linux that don't happen inside of a container that we may be expecting to happen. That's what they're saying, like, hey, your image may be broken, you may not even know it. Like, you have Linux commands, but it doesn't mean you're doing everything that Linux does to handle applications properly. Let's keep looking at this and take a look. Let's just search the web for this and see what comes back. So let's go here. Here's how we get started. Let's take a look at that. Where were we? Here. Okay. Well, so the image is still around. Clearly, it's still around. It's still here. Let's go and try to say 44 not found. Unable to pull image. Okay. Let's open that up. What do we got? Okay. This seems to be when we're using the latest tag, it's purposely not going to work. It was pulled. And instead, we need to reference a tag specifically from one of these things. We have to specify an actual image. Well, we know that a Docker file was pushed like 3 years ago. These are later than that. So we can assume it's either going to be, we either need to reference Jammy, maybe 100, or focal 120. We don't really know what image it's using. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go to focal 120. I'm just going to copy this. And we need to make a change to this Docker file, basically. Like this is not going to work. So in order to do this, we need to fork the repository because we can't make changes to their repository, right? So let's go ahead and create a fork. It'll go to Haraka under Greenlight Tech, which is fine. Go ahead and create that fork. I'm just going to actually move it to Rising Tide Group. All right, so Rising Tide Group, Haraka, and we'll copy the master branch only. Let's go ahead and copy that. And now that it's forking it, we're going to go update our Easypanel image to be Rising Tide because everything else is going to be the same, but we need to make a change to that Docker file and see if we can get this part working. All right, so let's go back here. Did this finish? Yep, we did. Now we're on Rising Tide, and we can go into the Docker file and we can edit it. And we're going to change this to be from focal. Instead of base image master, we're just going to change that to be, oops, there's 2 of those. All right, and then we are going to commit that change. And here we will say set fusion to focal 1.2. Change. All right, and so now we're going to go back into our Easypanel and let's go and deploy it again and let's see what happens. All right, so now I picked up our latest Docker file change. We can see so far it hasn't died yet. Well, now it did. Literally just failed 5 seconds to the 3 seconds. We're getting there. All right, so let's see what happened here. Loaded Docker file, cached, building state, package. Python software property is not available, but is referred to by another package. You may mean that the package. This may mean the package is missing, has been made obsolete, or is only available from another source. However, the following packages replace it: software Python common. So let's go and find in our Docker file. We're referencing this package somewhere. We're going to rename that. So if we go look at here, this is our Docker file. Let's edit our Docker file. And let's see if we can find, oh, right here. Python software properties is no longer available. And in fact, it's considered Python, the software properties -common, I think. Did I paste it? Yeah, software properties common. Let's save this, commit change, and let's keep going. And so basically, like, this is one of the problems that exist. Like, if you're familiar with Node, this happens way more often in Node packages because Node applications generally rely on packages from the library that can potentially be left outdated for a really long time. And if you're not constantly maintaining the code and making sure that it's all working, it could get out of date really quickly. Speaking of, notice we're using Node. This is a Node application. We now have a deprecation warning for Node.js 10x is no longer actively supported. Did not receive security vulnerability updates. Okay, so that's not great. And it's self-pausing. Notice it's paused for 20 seconds. It's going to happen again. Now it's pausing for 60 seconds. Wow, okay, so this is really not working. We need to use a different version of the script. Looking at this, yeah, we need to use a different version of the script. Notice it's running this command, curl sl here, setup underscore 10x. And we need to say 10x is no longer supported. We need to use a different version. Probably looking at these versions, 18 is recommended because it's LTS. So that's probably what we're going to jump to. So let's close this out. Let's go to our Docker file one more time here. Let's see, let's edit this again. Let's find that script. And we're just going to swap out the 10 for 18. It looked like that's what was doing it. And we can actually take this and see if it's a valid link before we try to deploy it. We can just right click that, go to, and see, yep, that successfully downloaded a real thing. So we're going to assume that's probably it. Let's go ahead and commit changes. And let's go back here to our Easypanel. It's stuck in the middle of deploying, so we may have to wait for this to die fully. There it goes, an error occurred. No, it still looks like it's trying. All right, looks like we gotta wait. Let's see what happens. It looks like it did finish eventually getting through the 2 delays. Set up Node.js, and now it's running the Haraka. We got a deprecation warning for npm CLI move, right? So this is what I was saying about how we need to make sure that whenever you're running a Node package, you're keeping it up to date and current. And it gets very difficult to do the more complexities that you do. It looks like this just died. Cast between incompatible function types for void. This is a coding thing. Right, so this is when I was installing Haraka, it just died. And maybe because, again, like the Node.js version is very old, right? So we don't even know, the app's been maintained after the Docker file. Keep that in mind, right? So we don't even know if, oh, and look at that, boom. So I just changed it from Node.js 10 to 18, and it instantly deployed and installed. And now we've got the naming that was done and finished, and we can go ahead and start the server. And there we go. It's loading at the very least, and it's listening on port 25. The last thing that we need to do, it is Easypanel or Docker more specifically, we need to expose the port. So I'm going to stop the app for right now. We're going to go to advanced. We're just going to say, hey, we're going to add port 25 is mapped to inbound port 25 on TCP, and we're going to save that. We're going to redeploy the app, which is a second, and then we're going to go ahead and restart it back up again. That should be finished. Yep. Okay. So now it's up and running, and the only thing left to do is to have us test that the connection's working. At this point, I don't have a telnet client, which is the easiest way to do this. So give me a minute, and I'm just going to deploy telnet to my application, my computer. We're going to, and then I'm just going to reshare my screen using command line prompt. Once that's done, looks like it's completed. Let's do a new share and let's share command prompt here. And I think my IP address is 34. Let's do telnet 10.1.120.34/25. There we go. There's our HarakaMail server up and running. Have a jolly good day. We can try doing like a hello mail.mendyonline.com. Boom. And we can do mail from mendyonline.com. RC2. Oh, that's a typo. RC2 mendygreen@gmail.com. Cannot deliver mail. Oh, can't do that. Now, keep in mind, like I've never touched HarakaMail SMTP Server before. I don't know anything about its configuration or whatever, but like this is a mail server. It's clearly corresponding to me with SMTP. It is working, and that's basically it. Nice and short and super easy. The idea of this video again is to get through the troubleshooting aspect. You can kind of see how I broke down what's going on. You're not sure what's happening. If it's not something that's currently working, you can't break it anyways. If it's something that was working that you're worried about breaking, take it back up first, but then just try it and see what happens. You can see we had to make some changes to the Docker file that I forked into my own repository, updated those one by one, addressed the errors as they happened, and then using some critical thinking and logic to figure out like what the next steps should be and how that would work. If you have any questions, let me know. Like and subscribe, please. And if you have any suggestions or requests on what specific videos to work on, you can either leave it in the comments or send an email, mendy@risingtidegroup.net, and let me know what that is, and I will see if I can get it in for you. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.